spine, you'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burnin Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, howdy there, daylight burners. Happy be Tuesday. I'm recording this Wednesday for all the main feed. Patreons on Tuesday if you're a subscriber. But I hope you all had a good 4th of July. Happy Independence Day to everybody. I got to spend it with a family down in Kansas and Colorado, so it was a lot of fun. It was pleasant in southwest Kansas, southeast Colorado, and hotter than blazes here in Nevada. It got hot. I don't know if it's global warming or what it is, but either way, it got hot. I had the good fortune to go down and visit my dad on the 5th of July. Spent the night with him. Got to talk to him about the water wars issue. You know, that's kind of his. What would you say? It's his kind of not modus operandi, but that's kind of his. It's like his passion project. That's what he's been working on for the past 4 or 5 years, and it kind of consumes his life nowadays. He doesn't have a whole lot else to do, so he's picking a fight with some local guys, with some big corporations in the name of keeping enough water in the ground to make sure that southeast Colorado can I don't know about thrive is the right word. A lot of people moving away from there, but at least enough water in the ground where people can survive for generations to come. So it was good to talk to him. We got to record for about an hour on it, and it was a very informative talk. So without much further ado, we'll go ahead and get into it. But if you'd like to listen to this ad free and early, go to patreon.com/Burnin Daylight. You can sign up there. That's the best way to support the show. And as I said, you get the episodes ad free and usually about a day early, and sometimes you get some bonus content from there. So anyways, without further ado, here is an update on the water wars. Okay, we're recording. We are here in south of Walsh, Colorado, with the infamous Wes McKinley, water warrior, doing another update. We've had a few developments since we talked last, and we'll have him give us an update on what we've accomplished so far.
Well, thanks, Matt, for coming down. It's really a pretty nice day. We had a very interesting water meeting. It's a quarterly meeting in Castle Rock. They have them every 3 months, Groundwater Commission quarterly meeting. Oral arguments was presented at that. Now, the process is that an applicant, anyone that wants a exempt well appropriation, there's two classifications of wells in Colorado. There's the exempt and non-exempt. The exempt is the statute 104. That is domestic, less than 3 acre-feet or less a year for your household and a garden. And the non-exempt then is the large capacity. That's 50 MCF a day. 50 acre-feet a year, 500 acre-feet, up to 1,000, whatever you think you can get. That is your non-exempt. Exempt is strictly at the discretion of the Groundwater Commission, and they have their rules to follow for that domestic well. The non-exempt is open to public. anyone that wants to object, and that's anyone. You don't have to be a landowner or resident of the county. It says the statute, the law is anyone can object, and then they shall have a hearing. So, and that hearing, the commission, the groundwater commission, state engineer, the applicant, whoever wants the appropriation, they must prove there is unappropriated water available. And that's all done by a mathematical formula. You figure where you're going to put the well, and they have the data, and from that data of that formation, you figure the depth you want and how much you can get. Then you apply for that. The sad thing is, none of that's done. The engineer then, state engineer commission, they make a determination if there is unappropriated water available. Somebody hadn't already acquired that. And we know how much water's in that aquifer. And you're allowed 40% of what's in that over a 100-year period of time. So we should have no wells ever go dry, because you're only going to get 40% of what's there. Each applicant only gets 40%. And from that aquifer at that point, at that time, it's actually called a cylinder of appropriation. And if it's not there, you don't get it. If it is there, you get it. But you only get 40% in 100 years, and the wells, there's no well that's been here 100 years yet, no high-capacity wells, so there should be none of them went dry. There's a lot of them that have. The reason being, they've ignored the law. The state engineer, who gets big bucks, you pay for him, he sits on his ass and does nothing. He don't do evaluation. The law says he must consider the interest of all well owners. That's the house well, the windmill, the stock well. He must consider all of that before he grants that. He don't do it. He's too busy relaxing, and you're paying. And then from there, the process is that anyone objects, they set the hearing. Then you send in a little information, and they determine that you don't have a case. So they grant summary judgment. You will get a notice that says, you have no case, it's been proven, and it hasn't. There's only been one case. In all of the legal filings, you see it is McKinley versus somebody. The applicant, the state engineer, the water commission. That's the only case, because they've scared everybody else off. But they didn't scare us off, and they didn't scare the people. And because of my experience, I was able to really kind of muddle my way through this and keep the process going. So the summary judgment, you're dismissed. Then you appeal that decision. You appeal that summary judgment to the Groundwater Commission, and they have what is called an administrative hearing. And at that administrative hearing, you present your evidence, and that's done at the regular quarterly Groundwater Commission meetings. You will be scheduled for oral arguments. You present your information, and the commissioners, Blake Gorley has been an ex-commissioner, and he couldn't get reconfirmed. Tim Hume is now our commissioner. Each designated district, which there are 8 designated districts, groundwater basin districts in Colorado. We're the Southern High Plains Basin. That basin has our representative, Tim Hume. He could not get confirmed whenever the government appoints it. And same with Blake Gorley. He was appointed to that commission probably in about 2014 or 15. It's ironic that he was appointed to that commission the same time that LGS come into Colorado. They were approved or incorporated, registered with the Secretary of State in 2013. Right about that time, Gorley's appointed commissioner. To be appointed, the governor appoints you. Then you go before the Senate Agriculture Committee, and they confirm you. or they don't confirm you. If you get past the Senate, if they confirm you, then you go before the full Senate of the House, and they vote on whether to make you the commissioner. And it's pretty much cut and dried, standard.
They don't
a procedural thing.
They don't vote them down very often.
Never. And if they accept, you got to accept. Yeah, I'll be the commissioner. It's that simple. So, Gorley comes up for reconfirmation. Because, see, this is about 2019 or so.
Okay.
He comes up for a reconfirmation. Now, to back up a little bit, LGS was incorporated, registered with the state in 2013. They started buying the property about 2014 or 15. That's the LGS.
Yeah.
You've rode over there. You've gathered cattle off of that.
What used to be the Witcher Ranch.
Right. We call it the Witcher Ranch. Before that, it was a Holt Ranch. And old, well-established, about 14,000 acres in it.
Right along the Cimarron River and the Oklahoma state line.
Right along the river. And our buddy, your good friend, Dennis Teveball, is the pilot and the airport manager. He just flew us over that yesterday.
Yeah.
What the reporter is looking at. I hope we get a story out of it. They come in, they bought the property, and then they applied for appropriations for wells. They applied for monitoring wells appropriation, which that's a pretty good deal, because a monitoring well, you simply monitor the quality and quantity of the water. And everybody is interested. They should be, because it's the most important thing on Earth for the survival of the species.
Yeah.
Humans, animals, whatever. A human 3 days without water, and your body starts to deteriorate, and you start the dying process. 3 days.
Yeah.
Very important. And it's abundant. God give it to us in abundance.
Yeah.
Easy. Right here, it's not all that easy. But basically, all you have to do is have a well. You know how dry it is. You've ridden over this country.
Yeah.
Many miles. Do you know that old timers, my granddad, and even my uncles, my dad's and his brother-in-law, they say that when they were a kid, and this would have been back in the 20s or 30s, right before the 30s, actually, in the 20s, you could find water about anywhere.
Yeah.
Like this little creek up north of us that never has any water unless they have a big flood.
Yeah.
Said there would be ponds, little puddles of water in
Mm-hmm.
them. Then when we started the farming process and got active in agriculture and using the land, the water level dropped. So the surface water like that disappeared. Then we drilled wells. Now, LGS bought this property, and that's kind of amazing. This is strictly my story, and I don't have that much to back that part of that. That there was a attorney, Schmidt, that in Springfield, and he put on some agriculture or some real estate classes back in the 80s, 90s, and I took those real estate classes.
Yeah.
To increase or keep my education hours up.
Yeah.
I have a teaching license, and I wanted to keep that up, continuing education. So Schmidt put these classes on. I took them. Joe Rosengrantz was another guy that took those. Several local people took them. And Joe Rosengrantz was a mail carrier. It's a good job, but you really don't get wealthy out of that. Joe Rosengrantz was a mail carrier. He took the real estate classes. Then he went ahead and got his real estate license and made some pretty good sales. He got some property and he got it sold. And then he made a lot of money, property, and he was farming and managing this, did very well. And that is Gorley's father-in-law. No, that's Gorley's uncle.
Okay.
Gorley's mother is a Rosengrantz. And Gorley's uncles then, her mother's brothers, they become real estate agents for Brinkley Real Estate. Warren Brinkley took those classes, opened a real estate business, and the Rosengrass Gorleys, they were the agents, and they got to selling this property. That's who bought the LGS, was from New York, and there is good evidence. Haven't proven this, but there's good evidence, and a lot of people say that the LGS actually is Russian mafia. Probably, and the courthouse clerk down in Cimarron, Oklahoma, Cimarron County, Boise City, she says that she knows, she has proof that is actually goes to the Russian mafia.
How did the Russian mafia end up in southeast Colorado and the Oklahoma Panhandle?
Well, because who knows? That would be a very good question to ask the Rosengrass. There's a couple of they're agents, the real estate agents for Brinkley Realty, and that would be a good question to ask Gorley. So I objected to these 28 permits. I found out that a local guy called and told me that lives down there, and he said they're drilling wells down here without permits. It was an easy thing to check, and they did have the permits. Nothing wrong with it. But I got kind of interested. Why would you drill 28 wells right along a river in about a 5 mile stretch of land?
It seems like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and at one spot there's, I think, 5 in 140 acres.
Really?
Yeah, 40 acres is not a big plot of land.
No.
But there's 5 wells. Why would you do that? Then I discovered, and that's easy to, who's going to object? But even that, since they wanted an appropriation, they could have drilled those, done those, without any public involvement, because they're not producing.
They're just monitoring.
They're monitoring, and that's up to the state engineer and the Groundwater Commission to determine if it's okay. And of course, who's going to object? Then when they wanted the appropriation, they said, well, these are monitoring wells, but we want to have an appropriation. A little strange, but nothing really wrong with that. And, of course, they granted the appropriation. Then that's when it became public. They had to publish it in a newspaper. All this is in law. They had to publish that in the newspaper. That's under the Title 37 and 9107 statute. So they did, and then in that it says anyone that wants to object. Well, I seen it in the newspaper. Very fine print. You actually had to get a magnifying glass to read the notice. And it says, pursuant to the statute, they request an appropriation. And anyone that wants to object must do so. 35 days. Here's how you do it. Write a letter. The Groundwater Commission says, I object. And the basis is, and you can say the groundwater is not there, or it's over-appropriated, it may harm my well. Those are all reasons. Then you start proving from that. So I got to looking at that. Then I found out that these innocent wells, these beneficial wells to scientific information provide, was then going to be turned into producing wells. And that skipped actually the public process to turn them into producing wells. So through that, we got involved. That wound us up in oral arguments at the Groundwater Commission, and they voted to uphold or deny summary judgment, which is dismissing the case. They voted, and the chairman then, after I got through with my little presentation, he said, do I hear a motion to uphold the hearing officer's decision to grant summary judgment? Hearing officer is the administrative judge for that agency. Yeah. And, of course, the commissioners are not paying a whole lot of attention, like those committees are. Oh, yeah. They want to get out of there. They're thinking about their family life and the beer that's waiting and all of the good things that committee members think about and dwell upon. And, of course, they voted to uphold the hearing officer decision. Well, the lawyers, Alan Curtis, and a couple of his little minion boys was there. I was amazed because the vote came, and these guys are lawyers, they're professionals, and they were giving each other high fives, just like the junior high football team. Like when you were on the football team, if you ever won a game.
Yeah.
Did you ever win a game?
I think we won one my 8th grade year.
Yeah, whenever you won a game, you were dancing around on the football field and giving each other high fives and kissing the cheerleaders. And same thing. Here we are in this government meeting, groundwater committee, and these lawyers are giving each other the high five. And I got to thinking, why is this such a great thing for them? I mean, in my weak mind, I thought they probably do this every once in a while. There's a decision made. And then I realized, after I'd done a lot of research, they'd never done it before. Nobody had ever got that far.
Huh. Nobody's ever objected before.
A lot of times, people objected, yes. I forget the guy's name. I'll think of it. They objected. Then, when you object, then you have a hearing conference. And that conference is to set the schedule for your hearing. And at that hearing that you've objected to the appropriation, at the hearing, the Groundwater Commission proves their case, which their case is, go right ahead, there's a water available for you, up to where there is no more available. It's just like whenever you're going to the bar and you run out of whiskey at the bar, it's over.
Yeah.
You got to come home. But what if the bar decided, well, those guys are so drunk, but now that whenever we close the bar, we're still going to keep on selling whiskey. We'll keep on selling whiskey that we don't have, but we'll collect the money and play like they get it. It's exactly what happened. They kept on granting these appropriations. So now we're at oral arguments, and Gorley reclused himself from voting because he's a commissioner. He represents the Southern High Plains Basin. Remember, this was in like 2016.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm reclusing myself from voting because I'm involved with LGS. He's a partner. He's part of it. He's on the commission. Might be a little conflict of interest.
A little bit.
It's a total conflict of interest. And so I got to wonder, how involved is he? Well, LGS, whenever they first started down here, they started developing. They bought that from the Witchers. Dennis TV Ball was the ranch manager. Mm-hmm. It had been for several owners before Witcher. They bought that. And then they had an open house to invite investors to come in. You invested your money with LGS, and they're a holding company. They take your estate money and whatever money you want to invest, and they're a company. You buy stock into it, and profits, you share in the profits. And now they bought this LGS ranch for around $30, $40, or $300 to $400 an acre.
Mm-hmm.
So they bought it, and they have cattle on it, and they got these irrigation wells, and they dug wells on that. Gorley reclused himself from voting because he's involved with it. Then, in about 2018-19, Gorley's term, you only have a 4-year term on that, your term is up, and he is reappointed by the governor. That was
that Hickenlooper at the time?
Pardon?
Was that Hickenlooper was the governor at the time, or was that Polis?
That was Ben Hickenlooper, I believe.
I believe so.
I believe it was Hickenlooper.
Yeah, now U.S. Senator.
Right there at the end of that. So he is reappointed. And I happened to be up there. This was in February, and I was at the Capitol. And it's just a fluke deal. I was up there on some stuff, and I had information I was going to talk to some of the representatives about this water. And Coram, Seaman Coram's my buddy. We're well acquainted.
He's a state senator.
Yes, he was a senator. We served in the House together, and then got along very well. He was a Republican. I'm a Democrat, but that made absolutely no difference. I don't care who you are. If you represent your district and uphold the law of Colorado, then we were allies.
Yeah.
Coram did that very well, and he came up and wanted to know if I had information about Gorley. I said, well, I happen to have some. What I had was those deeds that I showed you where Gorley had bought this property, then he sold it to LGS. No, he sold his property to a guy in Nebraska, Krutzinger.
Mm-hmm.
LGS had it was Gorley had 1,000 acres east of the Two Buttes Mountain. Most barren country, probably in the United States. He sold that 1,000 acres to Krutzinger for $3,000 an acre.
Yeah.
You saw it. $3 million. And then the very next deed was Krutzinger sold that same land to Oswald in Iowa for $5,000 an acre. It's a pretty good profit, but the deed he sold it to, the deed recorded that he sold it to Oswald, was dated 4 days before he even recorded the deed that he bought from Gorley. Gorley sold the property to Krutzinger on the 14th of December, 2018. Krutzinger sold it to Oswald on the 10th day of December, 2018.
He didn't even own it yet.
And somebody made $2,000
An acre.
an acre.
Of dry land farm ground in southeast Colorado.
Not actually, because Gorley had got a permit for an appropriation a couple of years previous.
Oh, okay.
So, it'd be interesting to know, to question Gorley about it. So we're having confirmation, and Coram asked me if I could be there, and I said sure. And I said, you want me to say anything or present any evidence? No, and you really don't normally do that. But he said, just be there in case I need anything. But this is good information.
Okay.
I said, here is some stuff you can have. You can ask Gorley these questions, and he can explain that. Coram's on this commission.
Mm-hmm.
He's on the committee. And so he can do that.
And you're under oath when you're in front of that committee, right?
Pardon?
You're under oath when you go before the committee, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Yeah, you are to speak the truth. That is perjury if you don't. So Gorley and Chelsea, his wife, they're there at the Capitol, and I see them. It's a very small place. If you're there, you'll know it. And the confirmation committee starts a little late, about 30, 45 minutes late. And if you're in the committee at the Capitol, and the committees start at 10:30 or 1:30, excuse me, that is the scheduled starting time for all committees. That means they will start not before, but after.
Yeah.
Because if the floor is held over, if it's voting or something, that's president. Actually, the committees meet after the floor dismissed, Senate floor or representative. So it's a little late, and there's several people to be confirmed. You really don't know your schedule till you get into there, who's first, second.
Yeah.
They confirm two or three people. It's pretty simple. They talk about how good a job they've done or will do, whatever the case may be, and then they go before have that opportunity to speak about themselves. Then the committee votes to confirm yea or nay. If they vote yes, then that decision will go before the full Senate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's pretty much a procedural thing. It's always done. So they come up for that. And then the motion came to ask Gorley, or to confirm Gorley.
Unknown caller.
That's my phone. Motion to confirm Gorley. And the chairman says, do I hear a motion to confirm? And somebody says, so move. And Coram raises his hand. And he has this habit of waving papers, quite dramatic. Madam Chair, before we confirm, I would like to have the opportunity to discuss this. Well, sure. So he said, I have information here, and I would like for clarification from Mr. Gorley about some of the information I've got. And they said, well, Mr. Gorley's not here because he had a prior commitment. That's ridiculous. But he had this prior commitment that he had to go. And Coram said, well, Coram, of course, knew that. It's quite obvious Gorley wasn't there. Coram said, well, in that case, I'll make a substitute motion that we hold off making a decision until I've had an opportunity, this committee has had an opportunity to clarify some things with Mr. Gorley. And that's a procedural thing. And the committee said, okay. All in favor? And, of course, they said aye. So the Gorley's confirmation was delayed. Then Gorley wrote a letter of resignation. And the letter of resignation said, I hereby resign my position and no longer am a candidate for reconfirmation. And then he said later that it was just too much BS. And I had heard, strictly rumor, that he had said that he was going to resign anyway.
Oh.
Well, he didn't because he was there for reconfirmation.
Right. Seems...
He did not want to answer these questions. And all he had to do was just, he could even written a letter to the committee saying, what are the questions? And that's, I will be glad to attend the next confirmation hearing. Or if you want me to provide information, let me know what you want, and I will be glad to do it. Never happened.
Well, and we were looking at those deeds, and you were saying it's not technically illegal to do that little switcheroo prior.
To do what?
The sell those deeds. I don't know. I don't know how that works. Where the guy that he sold it to could resell it before he actually owns it. But while it may not be technically illegal, it is highly unethical, which raises some serious doubts for an appointed groundwater commissioner.
It would. It would, because if you can sell property as many times as you want.
Yes.
And if it's in your name, whatever name it's in, if you go to the courthouse and check that, and if you bought property from Crutzinger and you went to the courthouse and to check it, and Crutzinger come up as the owner, that's the first step.
Yeah.
And then you buy title insurance and warranty deeds and all of that. That's the first step. But if you go to the courthouse, and if Crutzinger sold you property on December the 10th, and then or before, anytime, if you were making a deal, you said, I better check. You go to the courthouse and found out that it's recorded in Gorley's name, you'd say, I ain't playing.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you $5 million
for something you don't own.
Tempting until after you've proven,
right,
somebody, that you own it. That would have been a very good question. Yeah, it's highly unethical and not ever done. But they did it. So now Gorley gets off of the commission. And then the next appointee is Jason Crane. And I think Jason's probably a pretty good boy. But he was farming some land for Clifton. And Clifton, out east of Campo, Clifton had this property. They're from Arizona. They owned it, and Crane was farming it, and they wanted an appropriation for a well. And it was objected to.
Mm-hmm.
So then they had to go through the proof, and then they got an attorney, Alan Curtis, sweet-smelling little fella from up in Denver, and they got him, and he went through the whole process and filed summary judgments. We filed papers, and of course I lost that case. And then Jason Crane, and this had nothing to do with him. He was strictly the farmer. This was a legal thing. And but he comes up for confirmation because he's appointed to the Groundwater Commission.
Huh.
And he comes up for confirmation, and of course he's confirmed. And then Coram calls me, and he says, "Do you have information on Crane?" I said, "Not really, but I have information on the landlord, and there's some questions about the appropriation on the land that he's farming." And Coram said, "I want it." So I give it to Coram, and Coram, and he's, like I said, Republican. Pete Lee, he was a senator at that time, Democrat. Him and Coram worked together. You know Pete Lee. Pete's been down and riding.
Yeah.
Quite a pretty good cowboy, pretty good hand on a horse, and knows quite a bit about this area.
Yeah.
Ridden over Picture Canyon, seen the water levels, and seen how we no longer have the spring water in Picture Canyon that we used to have.
Yeah.
What springs are dried up. He was quite interested. So they come up, and Crane's confirmed by the committee. Then he comes before the whole Senate. I send to Coram the information. Coram gets up before the whole Senate and says, I was surprised he used my name. I didn't care, there's no secrets.
Yeah.
And he said, "I have this information from our friend, Representative McKinley," and he presented the information about the appropriation, not about Crane, but about the appropriation, and says, "I ask for a no vote on this confirmation." This is before the full Senate.
Mm-hmm.
This was Polis.
Okay.
And Pete Lee, Democrat, voted no confirmation.
Huh.
Well, Pete Lee had told me that before whenever Polis was elected, he got all the Democrats together, the Democrat caucus, and said, "You, as a Democrat, as a Democrat Party, will support everything that I want to do. My policies, my laws, my decisions, you will support them. If you don't, you will be out."
Huh.
So, of course, Pete Lee, he knew about the area, and he knew me. He's quite knowledgeable. He was the chairman of the Judicial Committee. Pete Lee voted no. He said that he looked outside the window. You know how it is there at the Capitol.
Yeah.
And the governor's liaison guy was standing outside the window. As soon as he come off the floor, see, the only ones that can go on the floor is the senators.
Yeah.
Unless they send you a card or invite you
To the floor.
And there's a guard standing at the door, the sergeants in green coats.
Yeah.
They're standing there, and you don't go on there unless you're invited. Pete Lee said the governor's liaison guy, the Polis boy, was waiting outside. The governor wants to see you. Pete said they was pissed.
Oh, I bet.
The governor was mad. And the newspaper come out. There was an article in it, the Colorado Political newspaper, said that for the first time that the governor's appointee was not confirmed. And the Democrats were in total control.
Oh, yeah. Super majority.
But, yeah, super majority. And Pete Lee said he looked at the board. You know, it's a recorded vote, official. And he was surprised how many Democrats voted against it simply because he voted.
Mm-hmm.
They looked to him as a leader. They don't know nothing about this country.
Yeah.
And and that's quite common. When you're up there, there's 65. You can't know everything about everything. And you look to the people that have knowledge. And since they know that Pete Lee has knowledge about it, even though he is from Colorado Springs and a lawyer from New York, I think, originally, they followed his lead because of his leadership abilities and wisdom. It's kind of ironic that the next election, you notice what trouble Pete Lee got into.
I guess I hadn't heard that.
Well, they charged him with fraud with voting because the district changed, and his district changed numbers.
Uh-huh.
And they put up some kind of a charge that he had tried to vote in the wrong district.
Oh,
And
jeez.
that was a crime. And he ultimately resigned. And he told me that he was getting older and he was wanting out anyway. Whether or not he resigned because of that or because of the legal stuff, it was a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm.
He lived in the same place for 29 years. He hadn't moved. But the district changed.
Oh, jeez.
See, we were District 64 down here when I was in there. Now we're District 47.
Oh.
So we're in a different district because of redistricting, and I'm not sure of the technicalities, but we changed. Same thing, basically, and Pete beat the charge, but it was quite dramatic. I've often wondered if that had anything to do with his vote. I haven't asked him about it because, he didn't want in. So, but it was big news. The first time the governor's appointee and his own party denied the appropriation. I felt kind of sorry for Jason because I think he was okay on that.
Yeah.
Well, then, we don't have a commissioner. Then Tim Hume comes up,
Mm-hmm.
and that we had a meeting in Lamar, and after that meeting, we had some water stuff there. Hannah, Jim's daughter, testified, did a great job. Jim was there. And then Kevin Rain, he was the state engineer at that time. He came up and wanted to know if he could talk to me. Sure, I talked to everybody. You ought to have seen some of the people I talked to at the Capitol.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. and the word got out, I guess. If you want to talk to Representative McKinley, talks to you.
Yeah.
I didn't really talk. I did more listening than anything. So Kevin Rain came up and said, I'd like to visit with you. And I said, tell me the time. Well, he said, anytime you're in Denver, call me if you're going to be coming up, and we'll see if we can meet. And I said, okay, well, if you want to meet, you can call me or you can come down here. Anytime. I will schedule if possible. And I hardly ever get to where I can't change the schedule. And he said, okay. So it wasn't too long later, I was going to Denver on an issue and called Kevin Rain. I said, Kevin, I'm going to be in Denver. And he was a nice guy. We were cordial. We had no problems. And so then I called him and said, Kevin, I'm going to be in Denver, in Littleton, at my buddy Ed Snyder's, and we will have time to meet if you want to. Oh, great, sure. So we set up a time to meet, and he wants to know who I want him to bring, and I said, I don't care who you bring, whoever, makes no difference. And I said, I have invited Holtorf because he was our representative from this district.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I've invited him. Just strictly protocol. I don't know whether he'll come or not. But since this is a political thing, I feel like it's only proper. All right, sure. Of course, Holtorf can't come. So Kevin Rain meets me at Ed Snyder's. You've been there.
Yeah.
Nice place. And Kevin is a bourbon drinker.
Okay.
He likes good whiskey. He's said that in the past to me. I forget how it come up. So I tell Ed, I said, well, let's have a little drink of bourbon. Ed was quite a connoisseur of anything. And so he goes down and gets a bottle of Pendleton.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff costs like $50.
Yeah.
That's kind of expensive whiskey.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin comes, and what he wanted to meet with, I had no idea. What he wanted to meet with, he wanted me to support Tim Hume's appropriation or a nomination for commissioner.
Oh.
And I said, no, I'm not going to support him. But why are you asking me? Because I'm not the state representative. I have no vote, nothing. Well, he said, no. And I said, I'm not involved in any of that. He said, I know, but you will tell Coram and Pete Lee. And I said, well, I'll tell anybody that wants information that I can provide. And I can provide a lot of information on Tim Hume and the Southern High Plains Basin, and I'm not supporting him. Okay. He said, we'll have to get somebody else. I said, well, you get somebody else, but I have no authority at all. Okay. So, and he had corrected me because his name is R-E-I-N.
Oh.
Like the bridle rein?
Yeah.
And I'd called him Kevin Rain or Mr. Rain, and he said, actually, my name is Ryan.
Oh.
Okay. Kevin Ryan. Good enough. So we have the meeting, and we get ready to leave. And I said, now, Kevin, would you like a drink of bourbon? Sure. So Ed brings out the bottle and pours a little bit out. And Kevin looks at us and said, oh, I don't drink stuff like that. I only drink good whiskey.
Oh.
Okay. So, so Ed and I had a little shot, and Kevin left. I told Ed, I said, Ed, it's an old Cherokee law. Never trust a guy that can't pronounce his own name and says your whiskey's not good enough.
Yeah, that's
Now, that's very honorable. Whenever I offer anyone a drink of alcohol or anything, iced tea, coffee, it makes no difference. If I'm not acquainted with them, and I said, would you like to have a drink? If they said no, like my good friend Jim Snook, he didn't drink coffee or tea.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Mormon.
Yeah.
That's fine. I said, Jim, you want to drink a coffee or beer? No, I'm a Mormon, thank you. That's okay.
Yeah.
You never want to press anything over on anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but it's honorable. Be a good host. You give a choice. My choice, Ed's choice, was not good enough for Kevin Rain.
Huh.
I said, wow, Ed, that's who we're dealing with. So then I said, no, I'm not supporting Tim Hume. And his uncle, Charlie, and I were good buddies, stood up with each other's weddings, the whole thing, lifelong friends. So there was some people confirmed later on. Then the chairman was confirmed, a guy from Alamosa area, I think. He was confirmed. Another guy from up in another district was confirmed. But Gorley wasn't. Then, a couple of days after the session ended, then Tim Hume was appointed by the governor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he didn't go before the confirmation, but he was appointed after the session.
Oh.
So he skipped the confirmation process, but he come up at the whenever they met again in January.
Mm-hmm.
He come up for confirmation. In January, by that time, Coram was out of the Senate.
Oh.
Pete Lee had changed, and the Senate Confirmation Agriculture Committee was totally changed.
And they just skated him on through.
Oh yeah, so they just stayed on.
Yeah.
So he is now the commissioner, and he is owns a bank, or is the banker, Farm First Bank, that loans the money to the farmers. Production bank.
Mm-hmm.
They loan the money for the farmers to put in the crop. He owns a seed company that sells the seed, or he's a seed dealer, so he sells the farmer the seed that the farmer borrowed the money from to buy from his bank.
Mm-hmm.
He owns the elevator that buys the finished product.
Yeah.
He's on the board of directors of the grocery store that sells food, groceries to the farmer, and on the board of directors of Colorado Mills, who makes the feed from the seed that he buys from the farmer.
Mm-hmm.
He's also president of the school board in Walsh. Gorley's father-in-law is Hargrove, Richard. He is the superintendent of schools.
Mm-hmm.
And they got a $14 million to build a new school.
Huh.
That school was not in bad shape.
No.
It was new in 1960. I was a freshman halfway through my freshman year when we moved into the new school in 1960. And it was a great open air, lots of windows. Tore it all down. The gymnasium, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Tore it down. Also, Gorley's father-in-law, his wife's daddy, was superintendent of schools in Springfield. And they had a very same situation, totally new school back in about 1960, 62.
Mm-hmm.
I taught school over there. It was a great building, very pleasant, user-friendly. They tore it down to the tune of around $45 million.
Oof.
Got a new school. While Hargrove, Gorley's father-in-law, was the superintendent. Then he moved over to Walsh as a superintendent, and they get a new school.
Oh, jeez. Huh.
And Tim Hume, not associated with Springfield that I know of, but he is on the school board.
Mm.
So there's some real interesting situations involved in that.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Well, maybe if you got time, maybe you should go ask Richard. He's your uncle.
Yeah, maybe I could. I imagine he wouldn't be too thrilled about
your
that.
Cousin, your first cousin.
Yeah. Well, Blake also owned the drilling company that was putting in all these wells. So he's a water commissioner, but owns the drilling company.
Did he own the drilling company?
That's what I heard. I heard he owned the drilling rig, and it's all very. It sounds a lot like Washington D.C., doesn't it? Just where it's just a revolving door of people that all have their hand in the same pot, and it all comes from our money essentially.
Unfortunately, yes. Now, Gorley, the drilling company, I didn't know that, but it's well confirmed he is the sprinkler dealer.
Yes. Yes.
He sells sprinklers. That's a known fact. And strictly rumor, but I heard he was involved with some kind of a big water deal that's pending.
Mm.
I don't know what it was. I haven't found out. I haven't checked, but I don't have the information. Yeah. So that's all very far. Now, going back to LGS, they bought this property 2015, 17, 10 years ago, 19 years ago. Then they Hayden Realty was the realtor, and Hayden kept their guy down there, Kerry Cromer. He was the guy managing it, did that, and they put in these, converted these monitoring wells to production wells, and they haven't put them all into production, but they then combined with the Kona elevator, CK.
Mm-hmm.
You've probably been on the CK. We worked down there too. They was the CK. They come together, and Greenland developers bought the Cimarron Valley Ranch.
Okay.
Greenland developers is and it lists the people. They've got offices all over there. Actually, mother country state is Missouri.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, Georgia. Their mother company is Georgia.
Okay.
Missouri's another issue, another water problem. But they are out of Georgia, same place LGS is out of.
Mm-hmm.
They're real close to the same address. Greenland Developers is worldwide, and if you trace their development part of, they go to Shanghai, China. I've got the deeds there. The information.
Yeah.
So now, and again, the lady at the courthouse in Boise City, she confirmed. She said, yes, there's no doubt that they are Chinese-owned. Greenland Developers.
Huh.
They have 80,000 employees, and they're worldwide. Developing, they build high-rise buildings, and They're developers.
Huh.
You invest your money with the Greenland developers, and they then make a big profit, and they'll give you a few pennies on the dollar for your investment, and everybody gets rich. Shanghai, China,
Huh.
is now owned that. That is 44,000 acres.
Jeez.
25 miles of the Cimarron River.
Why would a Chinese company, a development company, want to buy land? Because there ain't anybody moving out here to need the development necessarily. I mean, there's not enough people in the county to fill a high rise.
Yeah, you can't even get down the dirt road to that place.
Yeah.
It's even difficult getting to my place.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that is within about 7 miles of where we're at today.
Yeah.
It's real close. That's a very good question, and the people to ask, I've got their names here. You can call them up and ask them.
Oh? Blake Gorley? Or
That would be a good place to start. Tim Hume, because they're involved. They got water.
Mm-hmm.
Blake Gorley claims to be the management president, which he's not. That's a legal thing. Tim Hume is our water commissioner.
Yeah.
And it involves some, right now we're up close to 100 appropriation requests.
From that same place.
From the same place.
Huh.
Because, see, I've talked about the 28 monitoring wells converted to production wells to the sprinklers. And then they applied for an appropriation for like 40, 50 ponds. And they they permitted these ponds as wells. And the ponds were permitted for the watering of wildlife and livestock. But then they give them an appropriation number of 50 acre feet a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're simply ponds. And you're right, a lot of questions, and I don't have even close to the correct answers. But I can show you the people that do,
Yeah.
if they will give you the information.
Huh. It's interesting, and I guess the big question is that water available, the amount that they're requesting?
Who cares? If you've got a piece of property out here, and it's for sale, and you say it's got a gold mine on it,
Mm-hmm.
Indian artifacts, oil, it's got everything.
It's going to be worth more money.
Do you make any difference to you if you get your money, whether it's actually there or not?
No.
'Cause you can go seed a few arrowheads that your buddy, the flint napper, makes.
Mm-hmm.
You can spread a few flakes of gold around and show, yeah, there's sure enough gold here, and there is. Do you care if there's not near the billions you claim it is? No, you get your money and you run.
Yeah.
And you become invisible. With enough money, you can become invisible. Nobody can touch you.
This sounds a lot like how this part of the country was settled. You know, Boise City, Oklahoma was founded on a complete fabrication.
So was this.
Yeah.
Because the developers, Greenland developer might have been involved in that. They said, come on, we'll break this land up. Don't worry about the rain, because once you break it up and expose the soil and kill that nasty buffalo grass, it keeps this country alive.
The rain will follow the plow.
The rain will follow the plow.
And the flyers that because Boise City, Oklahoma, the flyers that they were circulating back east to these prospective homesteaders showed lush green trees, beautiful looking place, and everybody was excited. And then they stepped off the train in Boise City and saw tumbleweeds rolling across the ground and nothing but buffalo grass. Well, it turns out the picture they used for that pamphlet was from someplace back in Iowa.
I know they did here. That's how your great granddad.
Mm-hmm.
He homesteaded right where we're sitting.
Yeah.
Actually, the house was about 75 feet
Mm-hmm.
over where the bridge is.
Yeah.
Where we built the bridge for Tamara's wedding. That's where he built a set of house. Grandma come in as a school teacher, and they farmed here. Now, see, we had a chance back in the 50s. Then we farmed here, Dad did, and it got real tough. It didn't rain. It was another drought.
Mm-hmm.
We have them quite frequently. And he was actually starved out. We didn't have much to farm, rented land. And so we moved over into Kansas, and he went to work over there as actually a hired hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't too many years, just a year or two, till he actually rented the property.
Yeah.
And then after renting it, he bought some of it, and he did okay. Whenever irrigation came out, see, back in the 50s, they were drilling wells over there around Stonington that would shoot out a 14-inch solid stream of water. 14 inches is a pretty good stream of water.
Yeah.
And it would shoot out there 4 feet. Had a great old Walker-Saw engine sitting there running the pump.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, it was 1,500 gallon a minute wells.
Huh.
And the water, there was so much water there in that Stonington area that people that lived there said back in the 40s, 50s, you could dig a post hole and there may be a little water in the bottom of that in the morning.
Huh.
Because the water level. And windmill, all you had to do was just go sink a hole 30, 40 feet, and you had a windmill.
Yeah.
You could pump from now on with that windmill. So irrigation come in, and the crops was lush, plenty of water. Excuse me. And we thought, man, if Dad would just drill an irrigation well,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have to watch that little green crop come up and look lush. A hot wind hit it, get up to 102 degrees, and then it would just melt.
Yeah.
Literally melt down. We could have an irrigation well. And I envisioned how much fun it would be to walk around changing the tubes,
Mm-hmm.
changing the ditch, setting tubes, and wearing my rubber boots. And we would have the new fancy cars like some of my irrigation buddies did.
Yeah.
Charlie Humes and those big irrigators. Life would be good. And he did some test drilling and said we could get the irrigation. We have good water here. But he said it's not good for the country. He said we'll make more money, we'll work harder, we'll die an early death because of all the chemicals and the hard work we've done, and we won't have any real money. We'll be able to borrow a lot more and appear like we do, and we'll be depleting the most valuable resource we have.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, we're not going to irrigate.
Yeah.
So we strayed dry land farmers, and thank goodness we got along okay. We did enough damage to the environment, but we didn't do much spraying. Then the government programs come in, and we did all that. So right back to where we were at with the water, this is no different than any other government agency.
Yep.
It's the Water Commission. And the guy applying for the appropriation is not the villain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Crane, Jason Crane, and a lot of people, they want an appropriation. That's all okay. It's not really the most ethical thing because of what it does to the environment.
Yeah.
But it's legal. And that's okay if they follow the legal process. But then you get the Gorleys and you get the Humes and even the Hargroves involved in it. And it's the money, and they sell their soul for the money. It makes no difference. I've even got it here on proof that the water attorney, asked me at my contempt of criminal court hearing if it was my opinion that the law was what it said the law was what it says, or the law as interpreted, as told by Judge Brinkley and the lawyers, the Attorney General, or was that the law? And I said, you're exactly right. The law is what it says.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy to understand. And I'm not exactly, and I told this in court in my contempt hearing, I said, I'm not exactly ignorant of the law. I know something about the law because last summer I actually read 2 John Grisham books. So, I consider myself pretty well up.
Basically an expert.
Yeah, and I think Mo read The Lincoln Lawyer.
No, there we go.
Mo was living with me then. Your uncle, Mo, my grandson. No, I'd be your cousin.
Yeah, my cousin.
Yeah, Mo's your cousin. Great little fella. He did that. So that's where we're at. And it's accountability. The thing that's unique about this is that I'm a position to know something about it because of my studying over the last 6-7 years. Should have went to law school.
Yeah.
Of course, by then I would have been so dumbed down that I would have gotten a lot further, but I wouldn't have accomplished nothing. It doesn't make any difference how far you go. It's what you accomplish when you're plowing the furrow.
Yeah.
That makes a difference. I wouldn't have done that. But it's been a lot of fun. And I'm right. And I'm getting support. Well, I've always had support, but more people are starting to stand up. See, Gorley sued me for $50,000.
Yeah.
And that was his attorney fees. That's what he had paid Alan Curtis. I got the information here that he paid him, and the losing party to litigation. Let's see. So sorry about that little interruption there. And we can do something about it, and the law is there, and Alan Curtis wasn't at the last meeting we had in Castle Rock. I don't know why. Somebody else represented Gorley. See, Gorley's applied for a final permit on land he doesn't own. He hasn't owned for 2017. That's the land that I showed you, the deed that he sold. He's applying for a final permit, and that's all on legal statutes that follows that. He follows none of them. But he gets by with it. But at some point, if we stay the course, there will be an accountability happening.
Well, that's good. Well, I think you've done some really good work. Pissed a lot of people off, but you've brought a lot of attention, and people have started to come around. And I think it's a worthy fight to be had, because, as you say, water is the most vital resource that we have, and we don't have a whole hell of a lot of it down here.
I know, and everything that I've done, I can tell you where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
The study. We do have a $250,000 grant that the Groundwater Commission. Tracy Crossloff is the deputy director, and she's very congenial, does a very good job, and I'm trying to follow the law.
Mm-hmm.
She is that. And the Attorney General, of course, Phil Weasel, the Attorney General, it's kind of amazing that the rumor, strictly a rumor, that he's kind of trying to line himself up as the next governor.
Mm.
I've got the information on all of these filings, and there's been hundreds of them. These filings got the Attorney General stamp because, see, the Attorney General represents the agencies. That's his job.
Yeah.
He represents them. And it's got the stamp of the Attorney General. It has the lawyer's name on there, whichever one, and there's hundreds of them on there. Then it says in plain print, the opinion here is not the opinion nor the decision of the Attorney General. So here's a guy that throws away his own employees.
Yeah.
You know, whenever you work for somebody, the guy that you're working for stands up for you.
Yeah.
Even if you're wrong, but that's between you and him. He stands up for you. Here this guy's wanting to be, according to rumor, our next governor, and he won't even stand up for his own employees.
Yeah.
What kind of an individual would that be?
Uh,
That would represent. How well would he stand up for the citizens of Colorado if he can't even stand up for his own employees that willingly go to work and paid?
yeah.
He won't stand up for them.
Well, it's kind of the same way of all these people that are making money hand over fist off of land they know doesn't the water can't support this irrigation for very long, and they're sucking the aquifer dry.
I know, but in the meantime, if you got the appropriation, if they've given you 50, 100 acre feet a year, then that's valuable. Just that appropriation. Just the shares in the gold mine. Even though there may not be any gold there.
Yeah.
If you've got shares in it, that has value.
Oh, yeah.
That's what these appropriations for. It's not the water. It's the paper.
Yep. Yeah.
And that paper will circulate. And when it's gone, then you just build new paper.
Yeah. Move on to the next Boise City, Oklahoma that you fabricated.
Yeah, you can get in and shaft the next innocent victim.
Yeah.
As you say.
That's exactly right. Well, this has been enlightening, and I know the listeners really enjoy when you explain this stuff. So thanks again.
And, Matt, I'd like to put a little advertisement, a little commercial in here.
Okay.
Anyone that wants to get the information, let me know. I will go about anywhere I can afford to go. And anywhere I'm paid can get the expense to get there.
Yeah.
And put on a little seminar, a little class, explain what you can do, organize. We need to come together.
Yeah.
And it only happens when enough people, little people, raise up and said, we don't care. But our voice will be heard, and the toe of our steel-top boots will be heard as they go into your body parts, that here's the law.
Yeah.
Like it or not. Maybe it's not right, but till it's changed, it's the way it stands.
Yeah.
And that is the villain, is the people that ignore the law. Thanks a million. Thanks for coming down. I've got a few more things we can do before you go. I need some muscle.
I'm sure you do.
Thanks. You know, great. You're lucky to have a great family.
Yeah.
That's been my success, is my family support.
Yeah. Well,
not some of my in-law family support.
We've treated each other pretty well over the years, so it's been very good. So thanks for the time, the conversation, and thanks everybody for listening.
All right, thanks a million. Have a good day.
Your eyes up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horse is kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right. Just together, and you won't catch 'em all. But when you ride through the gate, make sure you sit up tall. I can see the horizon, it's looking pretty bright. Well, get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight. Burning daylight. Burning daylight. In the saddle till the job's done right.